Good evening. Welcome. It's Tuesday, September 3rd, 2024. I'm going to be calling our meeting to order at 6:31 p.m. We're going to start with a moment of silent reflection. Thank you. Moving on to our land acknowledgement. The municipality of Port Hope exists on the lands of the Mississauga Anishinaabeg traditional territory covered by the Williams Treaties. We honor and recognize First Peoples as right holders and stewards of the lands and waters on which we have the privilege to live, work, and play, including the Ganaraska Forest and River. We pay respect to elders past, present, and emerging. We commit to actions towards truth and reconciliation by recognizing the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, strengthening ties with First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples, especially those who make their home in Port Hope, and learning from Indigenous ways of knowing and being. We do so by recognizing the past and working towards a shared future. Moving on to item number 2. Disclosures of pecuniary interest. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest around the table? I note that none were received in advance of tonight's meetings. Seeing none, we're moving on to item number 3. There is no closed session today. Moving on to item number 4, announcements, updates, and recognitions. Welcome back, students. This is an important week. Today marked the first day of the new school year for many of our local students. And I want to extend a warm welcome back to all of our students, teachers, and school staff. The start of a new year is always an exciting time, full of promise and new opportunities. With the return of the school year comes an increase, of course, in traffic on our roads. I kindly ask all of you to be extra vigilant. Please adhere to the speed limits, especially during the morning and afternoon hours when buses are picking up and dropping off our students. Please slow down in school zones. Watch for children crossing streets. Sometimes they do rush out in front of us, and give buses the space that they need to operate safely. Let's all do our part to ensure that this school year is safe, successful, and full of learning for everyone. And I wish everybody a very successful school year, to the students and to the teachers and to the parents. Moving on to the second item that I'd like to update you on, and that is the digitization of marriage licenses. This is a really exciting and quite interesting update for the municipality. Earlier this summer, we shared over our communications channel that Port Hope, through Corporate Service Department, is participating in an innovative Ontario government program to digitize the marriage license application process, allowing residents to apply online for a marriage license. Port Hope is one of a handful of municipalities participating in this program. The digitized process improves efficiency for both applicants and municipal staff, reducing the time required to process applications. This new service is available to all Ontario residents, regardless of where they live. In fact, since we've launched this program, we have tripled the number of marriage licenses that we have received, the applications that we've received, and we're getting folks from all over the province applying for a license. The average processing time for a marriage license application has also been reduced, thereby freeing up staff resources to work on other important tasks. This program further showcases the municipality's commitment to streamlining the customer service, ensuring effective resource management, and who knows, opening a new side little business or opportunity for the municipality to be determined, and we'll see where that all goes. Another update that I would like to share this evening is the fishing update. This past Friday, we shared an announcement from the province regarding changes to fishing rules in the Ganaraska River, where portions of the waterway will be closed to fishing between September 1 to October 14th, 2024. Further details are available through the media release from the province that is on our municipal website, porthope.ca. The province, the municipality, and our local fishing and conservation partners have been working to share this information broadly and are committed to informing the community about the updated rules and ensuring that everybody is aware. While enforcement will be in place, it's important to allow time for adjustments as these changes take effect. Your cooperation, understanding, and patience are vital for a smooth and successful transition. I want to further provide some context from a municipal perspective because these changes are not unilateral decisions and are the result of years of discussion amongst various stakeholders in the province. Although the Ganaraska River is a natural resource within the municipality of Port Hope, the municipality nor the mayor have authority over its regulation. Governance, including fishing regulations and fishing seasons, fall under the jurisdiction of the Government of Ontario through the Ministry of Natural Resources, M&R. In July of 2024, the Council received a confidential briefing on potential regulatory changes being considered by the M&R. As part of that confidential meeting, Council directed myself and staff to engage with the Ministry to seek support for addressing the specific impacts Port Hope may face during the fall of 2024. This included requesting the implementation of a temporary variance for the 2024 season. The regulatory changes that were implemented by the Ministry were in part due to these ongoing discussions, but also the result of over a decade of discussions with the province regarding this matter. Over the next few weeks, as information becomes available, we will share more details through our regular communication channels. I also want to thank the Council for standing behind this decision, for their direction, and for the outcome that we received. And I also want to put out a reminder to the community about the tone and civility that's taken place around this decision and around some of the communications that some of us have received. And I know I've spoken about tone and civility prior here at this table. And I think I just want to put it into a bit of context. We do have, when you walk into Town Hall, in corporate services, a sign that talks about the kinds of behavior and respect that we expect from both folks visiting Town Hall as well as our staff in interacting with our constituents. In the last couple of years, there's been discussions about legislation to come forward to also ensure that council members are adhering to a certain code of conduct in their relationship with other council members, with staff, and with members of the public. However, we haven't got to the point where we have those same kinds of things in place for how the public interacts with those that are in public office. So I want to just, when I talk about tone and civility, it's not about disagreements with decisions that are made or coming forward to ask questions and have conversations with this council. But I want to share with you an example of the kind of direct messaging that I received over the weekend. You're a garbage mayor, and I hope you're ashamed of yourself, and you should resign and get the fuck out of town, you loser. These are the kind of messages that I receive from members of the public, members who are fathers, who are sons, who have children, and I think that they forget that I am the mayor, but I'm a person. So please keep this in mind. When you want to send messages, when you want to write things, please keep in mind that myself and all of my fellow councillors are human beings. Bring forward your concerns, bring forward discussions. We are here at the table to have discussions with all of you. But please do not forget that we are human beings. We are here for public service, and we are deserving of your respect. Moving on to the next update, which is live streaming issues. I know that we've had a lot of issues with our technology here in Town Hall, so I want to note that we have received this feedback. We are listening to this feedback regarding audio issues, and I want to thank all the residents that have reached out. We are actively working to address these and appreciate your patience as we move to resolve these concerns. If you have any questions, please contact the clerk at clerk@porthope.ca. And we all have new stickers on our microphone and had very explicit directions from the clerk about not to eat the microphones and how to speak into them. So hopefully there will be a change. We are working for more permanent solutions moving forward. And I also just, in terms of another one of my updates, wanted to announce that, and I had mentioned this at one of our prior meetings, but the Port Hope Walk-in Clinic has finally opened with a soft launch. There's going to be a grand reopening in the fall as some of the technology and issues around billing and physician recruitment are ironed out. But it's a terrific development and resource and asset to the community. I want to thank again all of the community partners that were involved, the county, and of course, Councillor Andrews, who worked with me very diligently on this project over the last couple of years. Now I want to just turn it over and ask, do any of the council members have any announcements or updates with regards to municipal business that they would like to share? Councillor Adam.
Thank you, appreciate that. I'm going to try to do my 3 fingers away. Yeah, so I just also want to highlight the fact that we have a lot of events coming up this month. We have the Run Salmon Run coming up, which is a great event put on by a local. Does a fantastic job with that. We just had an OHL game here on Sunday. We had the Deb knows that. We had the Peterborough Petes here to face off against the Niagara Ice Dogs. It was an incredible game, very well attended, and a very positive atmosphere there. It was wonderful to see. And of course, we've got our Port Hope Fall Fair coming up too. So that'll be a lot of fun. And again, I know that Deb's pretty happy for that as they come by. So looking forward to a lot of fun events here in the downtown right now. Also, I would like to say thank you for that note. We really appreciate that. And I fully agree with you and always there to back you up on that.
Thank you, Councillor Adam. Any other updates that anybody would like to share at the table? Okay. Then we move on to the more exciting part of today's meeting, and that is our presentations. It's now time for presentations. We have 4 on the agenda tonight, so I ask presenters to please adhere to the time limit that they've been given. And I do want to note that our first presenter has requested extra time, and as I have done in the past, I always agree to extra time for presentations. So the first presentation, I'd like to welcome Chief Simpson, Alderville First Nation, and he will be making a presentation regarding legal personhood of Rice Lake and the Ganaresca River Initiative. Welcome, and you can come up to the podium here, and there is a little button on the podium on the right-hand side. And did you find it there on the right-hand side? Okay, terrific. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for having me here today. It's an honor to be here in the Port Hope Council Chambers. It's actually my first time here and presenting here. So thank you for making the time to hear what I have to say. I am Chief Tainer Simpson of Alderville First Nation. We are situated on the south shore of Rice Lake. My background is in business, where I own and operate a company specializing in archival and historical research. We provide litigation management and support services to the federal government. So I've spent the last 25 years undertaking national legal projects, very similar to the one I'm going to be presenting here tonight. But of course, my most important job is being the newly elected leader of our First Nation. It is a role that comes with great responsibility to not only our citizens, but also the land and waters that provide for our people. So you guys are probably wondering, what is legal personhood of a water body, and why is it something that we want to pursue? The concept of granting legal personhood to natural bodies stems from the idea that these natural bodies should have legal standing. This means that natural bodies should have the rights and protections given to people, and to another extent, rights afforded to corporations. If a natural body achieves legal personhood, there should be a designated organization that represents those interests. This could be a collective of identified parties. Across the world, it has been the Indigenous nations that have led this charge, including the Magpie River Initiative right here in Canada. Granting this status to either the Ganaraska River and or Rice Lake would ensure that these water bodies are protected from egregious harm caused by overdevelopment, overfishing, pollution, and other forms of destruction. Marine and fish habitats need to be protected. A healthy watercourse means healthy people, healthy fish, and better economic opportunities. For example, fisheries and tourism. If corporations are afforded special legal protections, then the natural environments they are dependent on should also be afforded special legal protections. Our waterways are facing soon to be insurmountable threats. Once a river or water body dies, it's very hard for it to recover. We need to be taking strong steps now to ensure that our waterways can continue to provide habitat for fish and wildlife that we require to sustain ourselves. So there's a number of cases across the world where this has been successfully achieved, granting legal personhood to natural bodies. I've got a bunch here, maybe for reading if you want to in the future, but I won't get into all of them right now. That could be at a different time when if we move ahead with any type of partnership on this. So the Magpie River in Quebec has already achieved legal personhood in a Canadian first. So if you guys watch CBC, there's a documentary called I Am the Magpie River, and it outlines the reasons and steps taken to achieve this goal. The Magpie River was one of a few river systems left in Quebec that had not been developed for hydro production. The local Innu First Nation wanted to ensure that the river remained pristine and healthy for generations to come. The livelihood of the community depended on the bounty provided by the Magpie. In Alderville, we are people of the Rice Lake. We have always depended on the lake to provide for our livelihood. This includes manoomin, which you know as wild rice, pickerel, muskie, duck, fur-bearing animals, and many more food sources that are dependent on a healthy water system. Rice Lake is starting to deoxygenate in certain areas. Soon we will be past the critical threshold where irreversible damages are caused. Healthy lake and river systems benefit everyone and not just Indigenous people. So I probably won't be taking all of your time. I just wanted 20 minutes in case there was discussion. I actually have a residence on Rice Lake, so I've been able to see the changes that have happened over the years. When you get effluent from cottages where there's not proper sewage and sanitation processes in place, you get too many nutrients in the water, and this leads to oxygen being taken out by all of the growth that has happened from that feeding on that on those extra nutrients in there. So when you get that deoxygenation, you don't get fish spawning in those areas anymore. You get massive die-offs of fish, which we have started to see, and you get weeds that are mostly invasive that come and just they really mess up the system. So we need to be taking out a lot of this excess materials that are in there. I know a lot of people say you can't take the weeds out. That's for the fish to spawn, and that's not necessarily true. There's a balance, and right now we are past the balance of a healthy water system. So anyways, looking for maybe support and a potential endorsement from your municipality. So I'm not looking for any commitments today. I just want to put this on your table for discussion. This process would take years, probably several years to complete, and we would need to get it just right. So even before we officially start, we would want to have several meetings together. But of course, this is only if you guys are up for it. We might not achieve the goal, but we will make a strong case for protecting our waterways from overdevelopment and unsustainable harvesting practices. So even if we don't get this goal of legal personhood, we'll bring enough information and I guess put a spotlight on our waterways, and ideally something will come out of it that will help us move forward. But I feel like this way forward is something that's proving to be successful across the world. And it's really not too far out of the concept of what we're doing. If we can give special rights and protections to corporations, we can certainly give it to our waters. So if council is agreeable to exploring this idea, then I would suggest setting up a joint council standing committee. Any committee would also include seats for community members, interested community members. They don't have to all be for it. They could be people that have respectful, objecting opinions that we could incorporate. I mean, we want to allay the fears of the community. We want to show that we're not just going to force through something that's not acceptable to the people. And I think once people hear the facts and they realize the benefits of doing something like this, they'll be in support of it. If you are a fisherman, then it's not saying, hey, you can't fish. We're actually going to create a lake that has more fish to fish in. So we need the support of local community to make this work. And what would a collaborative approach look like? Well, the Joint Committee would be a venue to share our opinions and potential differences on our united approach. We want a result that benefits both Port Hope and Alderville citizens alike. So that would lead to next steps. If we do decide that we want to move forward, we would want to basically inform the community of what we're starting to do. This would include an engagement process, but I don't want to rush your decision. It's totally up to you guys. You can take what I have, sit down and talk about it, say, hey, chief, I don't think this is a good idea. It's not for us right now. And that's great. I mean, but I do hope that these are ears here that would be willing to listen to what we have to say and maybe explore this subject. So we are available to answer any questions or provide any materials that you need to make this decision. We would have a communication strategy to strengthen community support and allay those fears. So community support and buy-in is a critical requirement. A town hall could help inform the public on what this initiative means and why it's so important right now. Our Alderville citizens are nearly all in support of this initiative. We understand the importance of healthy waters and ecosystems. We can't keep taking from and abusing the waterways and still expect nature to give us what we need to survive on this planet. I believe once the community has all the facts, then they will be in support of this journey. And now a little bit about Anishinaabe Nation, which is our tribal council. There's 39 First Nations in Ontario that make up the Anishinaabe Nation, including Alderville. The Anishinaabe Nation Youth Council is spearheading our legal personhood file for all of the projects that we are currently under consideration. So I would like to propose that our Anishinaabe Nation youth and the Port Hope youth work together on this legal project. It would be a great way to bring our communities together and get the youth involved in truly meaningful projects. It will be the youth who most prosper if we can achieve this goal. I know I said I needed 20 minutes, but I was thinking there might be any questions or anything, but for the most part, that's the end of my presentation. Thanks for listening, and I truly appreciate the opportunity to share this idea with you. Miigwech.
Miigwech, Chief. Thank you. I'm now going to just open it up for questions and comments from our table. Maybe I'll just start going this way since I see hands up. Councillor Lass.
I think it's an excellent idea. I don't know enough about it. When I first saw the presentation, I wasn't quite sure whether personhood was the proper terminology to use, but I can understand. But I think the biggest thing is the last 2 points, or the point 6 and 7, timing and communication with the community. So you probably have to do it in small steps so that everybody can follow along with the music. But thank you for doing this.
Councillor Todd.
Great, thank you. Honestly, well, I hit the button and everything, and you know what? That was some of my best stuff. Anyways, thank you, Chief Simpson, for that, and I agree. I think it's a great idea, and I support exploring more. I have a question for you. What involvement would the province or the Conservation Authority need to have in this process?
Well, thank you for that question. We're going to need the involvement of all levels of government, the province, the federal government, as well as the courts. As previously mentioned, yes, this isn't going to be a quick process. We want to be slow in our approach. We want to make sure we're getting it right. And, all of us might be out of out of office by the time it actually comes to happening. But that's how these good ideas start and go, and it has to start somewhere if we're going to go for it. But yes, we would need the buy-in as well with the province and the feds.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Yeah, this is a really interesting idea. I did do some research around the Magpie River case study specifically before coming here today. My question, I wasn't aware that this was going to include Rice Lake in addition to the river. So obviously the river would be the component that Port Hope has a stake in. I'm curious to know whether you'll be making similar invitations to the other lower tier municipalities that abut Rice Lake as well. Like, would this be sort of a county table kind of discussion involving those other lower tiers as well?
Thank you for that question. It certainly would. I guess we are coming to Port Hope first, just because of the proximity to the Ganaraska and the Rice Lake. So I do understand that they are separate water courses, and this is something that we can discuss. Do we move forward in tandem with both the initiatives? Do we say, we want to focus on one over the other? This is all something that we can discuss. But I know that these are two major water systems in our territory that do need additional TLC right now. And I'd be in support of whatever your council decides.
Councillor Mink.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. So my questions are along the lines of my last two council member but I just want to share an experience I had just the other day. I was at one of our neighboring Indigenous communities talking about reconciliation and affirmations and acknowledgements and so on. And I mentioned this to them, and I don't want to name which one, but it was one of our neighbors, and they were unaware of personship, which I kind of took a step back because I expected them to be aware. So that is one of my questions when we're looking at Hiawatha, who's on the other side of the lake, and we have Curve Lake, Scugog, and the Mohawks of Bay of Quinte. Is there any discussion with them so that they're all aware of what is happening here, so that if we have those discussions with our close neighbors, everybody's educated about what's happening here? So I do rely on them as a resource of information, and it was an awkward experience when we mention that. The other thing, I sit on the board of the Ganaraska, and I did talk to them, are you aware of this? And they hadn't been approached yet. But when I look at this, I think it's great, but I look at almost the riding of Northumberland, Peterborough South, because Rice Lake is in that whole riding. And I question, well, why not the Autonomy River as well? And I know you want to focus, but I see that as the set here of the Ganaraska, the Autonomy, and the Rice Lake. And then I see Ganaraska, Autonomy, and Trent Valley conservation areas playing a very important role. So, as well as the two counties and so on. So I think that Port Hope, I know you need to start somewhere, is great, but I'm hoping that bigger scope will have buy-in, because I think it's needed in order for this to be successful.
Yes, thank you for those comments and questions. Now, the Anishinaabe Nation has been pursuing this in a wider context for quite some time. When we get to the specifics of what the other First Nations are discussing, this is something that we've talked about in passing. I've spoken a lot about it in the Chiefs meetings that I've been in. Now, if we do get some traction here, I would like to go to all of the other municipalities and the First Nations in the area. It's sort of my assumption that they would be up for it. Again, that's a pretty big assumption, but of course, if we do get the support, then we would work together as a Williams Treaty collective, as an Anishinaabe Nation collective, and ideally as a Chiefs of Ontario collective. Now, we haven't really taken this far because it's so at the beginning. We haven't officially had anything. We haven't done any paperwork. It's just a matter of going out and seeing who's interested. Can we get some buy-in on this? Would we have allies if we do decide to move forward? So we are at such the first stages that you have to start somewhere, and really a lot of it's today.
As a follow-up question, would you be willing to come to the GRCA at some point, board meeting, and speak? That would be great.
Yeah, I would have no problem with that. I'd be honored to appear there. Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Adam.
Thank you. So I don't have the questions that because being near the end of the table, you lose them all. But I would like to say I love the fact the joint council where we also can have community members so they can express their opinions as well. I always love that, and you know what? It never hurts to have conversations about protecting our waterways. I think this is a fantastic initiative. No idea where we go, as I don't know enough about it to say anything like that. But I love the fact that you're bringing this forth to start the conversations, knowing that this will be a many year process. Thank you for that.
Oh, thank you for those comments. And just so you know, I've been, I mentioned it earlier, but I work on national legal projects, and I've been doing that for the last 25 years. They've all had great results. So this is a fight that I have a good feeling about, that I think that, we can go all the way. And I wouldn't be putting my efforts in if I didn't believe that. So I've got that experience where I just know how these things work. So if you guys want to join in, then that'd be great as well too. So thank you for your support there.
Councillor Darrell.
Hi, thanks. I don't know a lot about this either, but question I have would be, if personhood is granted ultimately at the end, does that take the river like outside of the purview of the MNR? And would there be like guardians appointed of the river, like surrounding municipalities?
That's a very good question, because this is something that's so new in Canada. MNR could very likely be part of the organizational framework that oversees the protection of the lake and the waterway. But we don't know who would all be in that umbrella organization that does that representing. So there would have to be some form of monitoring, because that's the whole point, is it to instill these protections. Now, legal personhood just gives these extra rights where if a harm is done, then legal compensation can happen and can occur. So someone could be technically sued for a violation of that body water rights. So it's really not too far out of what we're already doing. We have laws against polluting. It's just a matter of giving a new toolkit to enforce these protections.
Did you have a follow-up or?
No, I'm good, thanks.
Okay, and circling back to the deputy mayor, and then I have a question and comment as well.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to say I appreciate your transparency about sort of how early stages this conversation is. I think there's been some of the feedback or sort of the speculation in the community after your interview on the radio was really expressing concern that this was sort of really far down the path already and almost a fait accompli. And sometimes that's the reality of how we operate, right? By the time it becomes public, a lot of work has already transpired. So I appreciate you being here so early on in the stages to make sure that really can be a very transparent process with lots of opportunity for the public to engage throughout the journey, which will obviously be a long one. So thank you for that.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, so I'll just make a few. Just to actually dovetail on what the deputy mayor was saying, I do want to address that, because I'd first become very interested in legal personhood during the election. And when we were talking about what are the possible policy mechanisms that we can use to protect and save some of our tree canopy here in the municipality. And I brought forward the idea of legal personhood as part of the environmental rights movement when I first spoke with you, Chief Simpson, when you were elected over a year ago. So it's been a long process of ideas and conversations to get us to this place. It didn't just happen in the last couple of months, that's for sure. I did want to say a few words about legal personhood, because it seems like such a abstract and potentially theoretical concept for most people. But I think if we look back to the history of Canada, if we think about our Constitution, prior to 1929, women were not considered to be qualified legal persons under the law. And that changed. That changed with the Edwards case in 1929. And as the chief so rightly pointed out, we also have legal personhood now extended to corporations, which gives them a whole set of rights that most people would find pretty confusing and potentially questionable. But there we have it in the law. So I think that when we think about what is meant by personhood, it's really determined by the time and the context in which these types of analyses and determinations are made. And it wouldn't be the first case, either in Canada or internationally. As the chief pointed out, we've had it in Quebec. There's a really interesting project happening in BC. We've had it in Australia, New Zealand, India, Bolivia, Colombia, Mexico, US, and a number of other countries that I'm not mentioning. And I really think that the presentation that comes forward to us today as a council allows us to consider a potential platform for reconciliation, not just performative reconciliation. You know, I read the land acknowledgement at the beginning of every meeting when we talk about our commitment to UNDRIP. It's one of the first things, the first motions that this council passed. And under UNDRIP, which some of you may not know, is the recognition of Indigenous peoples' rights to determine and develop priorities for the development or use of their lands or territories, and recognizes Indigenous peoples' rights to maintain and strengthen their spiritual relationship with traditionally owned or occupied lands, territories, waters, coastal seas, and other resources, and to uphold their responsibilities to future generations. And I think that's the key here, is to talk about the protection of our natural assets, not for now, but for 7 generations to come, as is very much in our land acknowledgement of learning from Indigenous ways of knowing and learning. So I appreciate the presentation today, Chief. I think it opens new possibilities of discussions around reconciliation for us, around sustainability of the river and the lake, protection of biodiversity, and the development of non-extractive tourism. And I think it does allow us to enter, as you said, in the early stages of very difficult discussions about what is the intrinsic right of nature. So at this point, I'm going to pass over the chair to the deputy mayor, because I'd like to put a motion on the table for council consideration. So I know that you've come with the presentation and put a number of options in front of us, and I do think we're on a learning curve here as a council to find out more information and to know more about what this might entail. But I would like to put forward a motion that the council receive presentation 5.1 regarding Alderville First Nations efforts to attain legal personhood of Rice Lake and Ganaraska River, and that council endorses your efforts to date and further encourages Alderville First Nations to communicate any concrete opportunities for collaboration on this important initiative. So I'd like to put that forward, and
So moved. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Todd. Any discussion from council? Councillor Mink?
Thank you. I just have one question. I support your motion. Just the wording, because I want to make sure that we're very careful with the message we're sending out to the community. When you say concrete efforts,
concrete, collaborative.
I just don't want that to be interpreted as, at this stage, financial. I have heard that, so I want to make sure that that's clear.
I think what the motion is saying, communicate, not commit to. So communicate any opportunities for concrete collaboration. So at this point, it's really about information sharing so that we know what the possible opportunities are for collaboration. We are not committing to any concrete actions at this point.
Perfect, thank you. I just wanted that to be clarified publicly before tomorrow.
Any other comments or discussion? Councillor Adam?
Can you just read it one more time for me? Just writing it down.
I assume that you don't want the first part. Okay, so we can adjust the wording to make everybody comfortable, but I was proposing that council endorses the efforts to date and further encourages Alderville First Nations to communicate any opportunities for concrete collaboration on their initiative.
Any other questions, comments, discussion? Not seeing any, then I'd call the vote. All those in favor? Motion carried. I'll hand the chair back to the mayor.
Thank you again.
Thank you very much. We are quite pleased, and we're going to have some happy community members in Alderville. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to our next presentation, 5.2, Robin Dines, Port Hope Heritage Business Improvement Area regarding update on the progress of the Heritage Business Improvement Area and budget. Welcome, Robin.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, council members and staff for having me here to give an update of what's been going on with the HBIA. I joined the HBIA in February, and it's a very different organization now than it was back then. I don't have a lot of the history before because I don't think that's important to talk to, but what we approved as a budget going into the beginning of the year, I just want to, I know it's kind of hard to read, but I just want to say that our regular levy was around $62,000. We were looking for additional revenue coming in with filming for a total revenue of $72,000. What has happened with the expenditures put out, what we know, we learned things over the course of time that it made it necessary for us to start reallocating funds to do things that we needed to get done because of the construction. There was one of the things that that happened was the InGood Consulting Group was in town, and we've worked on the program to profile shopping downtown, et cetera, et cetera. Excuse me, I'm a little bit nervous. My apologies. Anyway, so there was a program that was put in place that required around $40,000 to implement, and they were hoping for a grant to come through from the government, but at the same time, by shuffling what we had in our budget around, and we had not had an administrator for a number of months, and a number of other things that allowed us to have more funds, we ended up funding the Be Walton campaign. And so what we were doing was trying to get people to still keep shopping locally and drawing people into the downtown core, leveraging the existing events and making a difference. And we did a lot of walking around downtown to all the different businesses and listening to each one of them and seeing what their concerns were. We were very fortunate in being able to set up meetings with a number of people in the different parts of with the staff, and we would address different issues as they came up. With also when I came on in February, we didn't have a website or any social media, so we had we didn't have a complete listing of all of the of our membership. So it was very difficult to be able to connect with all of our members. So we built a website within this budget, as well as put the social media activation in place. And we hired an administrator. And we were very fortunate in hiring this administrator on a contract basis to set up procedures for us from an administration perspective, as well as we were very fortunate that she also has 7 years of experience in marketing and advertising and web development. So she's been able to work with us to move things ahead very, very quickly. So I think we've had a pretty good impact by reallocating the funds that we've had to use. And we've done things like we have social events every 6 weeks, just so that everybody's working together, because we really want to make sure that we're all ambassadors for each other downtown. And So we've had different contests and stuff. We've had the window contest for the construction site. Right now we've got one going on for that's in support of the fair. One of the things I think is really important is going through the construction, and this was said by Jana Bibolo, who we just did a reopening of her business. And one of the things she said was the construction's really is a real challenge for everyone. But she said it's really brought us together as a community and as a downtown business association. We've been able to support each other and do things that draw people into the downtown core. One of the things, the programs we put in place, and I want to really highlight too, that the Capitol is really an anchor for our community downtown. When everything else was quiet, as soon as the Capitol had a show going on, then all of a sudden there was a buzz of people around town, and it really, really stood out in as we're going through construction how important the Capitol is to us downtown. And so ticket sales for the Capitol were down, and so we started a program called Eat, Shop, and Dine and Show, and the HBIA put money towards that ticket, and the Capitol reduced their ticket prices. And so it included $25 to eat at a local restaurant and $20 to shop in a shop, and then go to the show. It was very successful. I think we sold about 500 tickets that way. And we had a number of shops that said that they had zero sales until those coupons were brought into the store that day for people to be shopping. And so that's the kind of feedback that really makes us feel like we're really making a difference. And so we've also really appreciated, as Cheryl and I have been working with different aspects of the municipality, for everyone helping us, because we're green at what we're doing, and helping us set up procedures. We have a real will to do things with the proper protocol and everything. And we're looking forward to being more proactive in what we do rather than reactive, because we've been extremely reactive. And I know we've been challenging a lot of people in how we've been getting things done. But one of the other things that came out of the construction was the fact that when we needed to implement things, we developed an implementation team that, working with Todd's group and with the Parks and Recreations, the stakeholders were sitting around the table, and to implement all these different programs and leveraging the events that were coming to town and everything, we've all started working together really, really well. And so I hope that's something that continues going forward after the B. Walton program is over, because it brings together the Capitol, like a lot of big stakeholders, critical mass, everyone who has a stake in the major players who have a stake in all the events that go on downtown. We are looking at a structure. This structure was just approved by our board at our last meeting. You'll notice that it's got beautification, which is something that's we're all about beautification and promotions. Communication with promotion and events is another category. And then further to the left is governance with film liaison in that. And we're looking at a new film policy as well to hopefully be a part of that. And then also finance. So the one in the center is called business recruitment and planning. And this is one where we all think it's really important, because that there are some empty storefronts in town, and we would like to be able to understand what is missing in our downtown core to make it an even better place to come to downtown to do shopping, to find your special interests, whether it's arts or interior design or eating, whatever. But just to try and do some research in other municipalities and HBIAs to see what type of things are we missing, and then eventually going out and recruiting with some of the building owners to recruiting businesses to come into the downtown area that would make a difference. There's a number of business models that really work well in that there's a level of expertise that is in the business that they have, the storefront isn't their only aspect of their business, but it's complementary. And so I think there's a real opportunity to draw more of that type of business into the core. So this is the structure that we're hoping to work with. We will be, and the other thing I want to say thank you to the town for contributing the funds that were necessary to help us get the B. Walton off the ground. Part of that was a contribution of the parking revenue, and that made a big difference to us to be able to meet that project. And so it's that kind of thing that really makes a difference for all of us working together to make things happen. So anyway, thank you so much for listening, and look forward to working with everyone in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the update and all the details and sharing the challenges and the successes and the plans for the future. And I want to, speak and hopefully on behalf of all of council to thank you so much for your leadership, Robin, for taking on this role and responsibility through such a challenging time for the downtown. And we certainly all know that the hours that you're putting into it far exceed what is visible, and you're instrumental to helping us weather the storm of the construction and being such a supportive force for all the businesses and creating that unity. So just really want to thank you and acknowledge all of your efforts. I'm going to turn it over to my other council members for comments. Councillor Lass.
Good thing we're alphabetical. I'd never get to say anything. Thanks, Robin, and it's a pleasure having you on board. One concern was that in years past, the relationship between the formal organization and the membership was quite fractured. In your opinion, where do we stand now?
We've done a lot to make connection with all the businesses and the building owners as well. Both myself and the administration, Cheryl, the administrator, have gone and visited every single business a number of times. And we've improved what the HPIA understanding is to all of our members. And the events that we've been having every 6 weeks, they've been really positive. People have been very positive that we've taken an interest and we're actually out there doing things. Like everything right from, we had loony jars when everyone was about parking. We said, well, here, have a loony. So there's just, anytime there was a concern, we dealt with it, or we handed it off to somebody in the municipality that would deal with it. And we've been very fortunate to have people like in the construction office. Matthew in the construction office has been great. Every time we needed something or one of the members had an issue, he would respond to it. So I think just by listening and reacting to things all the time, I think our relationship with our members has improved a lot.
Good. And one more question. In your budget, you have benefits of some $48,000. Where did that number come from? Right down at the bottom on the balance.
Oh, sorry. There's two numbers there, 47,991 twice. And I'm sorry, the second one is not in it. The first one is, it's a misprint because I was checking my formulas and I forgot to take it out.
Oh, okay. So it's
I apologize. Yes, it
okay.
is.
Thank you.
Thanks for noticing that. That shouldn't be there.
Councillor Todd.
Thanks very much. That'd be a big benefit. Yeah, it'd be a great benefit. So full disclosure for everyone who's listening or at home, I'm the council rep for the HBIA. So I'm fortunate enough to have some inside information because I sit through the meetings and so on. I want to thank you, Robin. Like, you've done a really amazing job as the chair. The board, yourself, Cheryl, just worked tirelessly. And I know we had a lot of new folks on the board who came at a very tumultuous time, but you dug in, and when the community comes together, the business community comes together, the narrative has always been very similar, which is, this is hard, we're going to get through it, we'll be better for it. And I know a lot of that positivity has come because the BIA's board has looked at how can we build community as much as how can we keep everyone in business. And I think that's shown in the spirit of what's happened downtown. I think it's shown in a consistent message. It certainly shows up when I'm talking to merchants. So thank you for all of that, because this is hard and this is necessary, and we will get through it and we will be better for it. So thank you.
Well, we all love Port Hope. And one of the things that I've always said in any of my jobs, if you create an opportunity for people to do the right thing, then we do. And that includes all the community and the people who want to come down and shop. We just have to provide people with the right opportunities and reasons, and it's incredible how amazing this whole community is. And I do want to say that I really appreciate the working relationship we do have with the municipality, the municipal staff. I know we can be a pain in the butt sometimes, but it's all with good intention. And I am so looking forward that we're going to be more forward thinking now, going in the future. And I think that if anyone needs anything of us, just ask. Okay. Thank you so much.
I've got Councillor Mink, and then Councillor. Do you mind if we just keep going around the horseshoe? Okay, Councillor Mink, and then Councillor Adam.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I really liked the idea of I think you said eat, shop, and show, I think you said. And it just triggered a memory of mine, and just want to share it because it might be some unsolicited idea. Last year during the salmon run, I sat out here in my car for a very long period of time, reading emails and making phone calls. And there was a bus that pulled up that was idling for that entire time. And in that time, and it was a long time, I was sitting out there. A couple other buses came, dropped people off. They look at the river, get in the bus and go. And I thought, well, here we have an opportunity of tour buses. They weren't marked, don't know where they're coming from, that are visiting our community and not spending a dime, looking up the river and leaving. And I thought for our municipality, there's a great opportunity, but as well as for the HBIA, it might be too late for this year, but to get to that first bus, find out where they're coming from and come up with some sort of shop, show, whatever, so that coupon program of something so that they stay, and tell that bus driver where they can park. They don't need to idle. You're welcome to stay here longer and spend your money. So that was just something I observed, and I think there was a great opportunity that I watched drive away. So I just want to let you think of that idea.
We've noticed that too. And that's one thing that in the structure that we've got, we're really looking forward to the new tourism strategy coming out and seeing how we're fitting into that as well. We're thinking all the time about the types of campaigns that we can do to have people, shop, dine, and show. And Erin at the Capitals, she's got a great imagination on what to do, and so does Cheryl. So you can expect to see more of that. There's also working with the tourism department, both Northumberland and with our own tourism department. There's different opportunities for getting involved with tour operators. And Erin has been excellent at showing where the door is to open there, so that we'll work together to take advantage of that. But yeah, you're right. It does take a year to get things turned around to be able to take advantage of all of that. So we're on it.
Thank you. And Councillor Adam.
Thank you. So a little bit of history about me. I started working downtown in 1995, 29 years ago. And I realize I'm only 25 years old, so how is that possible? I've seen the changes of the HBIA throughout the years. My sister was in your position at one point, as she was the chair for a period of time, as we owned. So my sister and my brother-in-law owned Jim's Pizza. My brother-in-law, ex-brother-in-law, still does. And it has been fantastic. So I'm actually going to answer Les's question. And what is the current relationship? So I have seen the relationships change throughout the year. And I don't recall a time where the relationship's better than it is right now. I haven't seen anything like the socials, the monthly socials that we're doing. I haven't seen anything like that in 20 years with the HBIA. Usually, and let's be honest, us business owners are very difficult people to get along with. We all have our opinions, and our opinion is the only opinion. But recently, I've been noticing the difference, and maybe Ed can back me up on that too. But people are getting together, and they're collaborating, and I love these different things, like as Councillor Mink was saying about the show, dine, and all of
Shop, dine,
that.
and show,
It has been a great opportunity to get everybody working together as a team. Something that I've been trying to do for a decade, making sure that I'm constantly doing promotions with other businesses. And now we're starting to see everybody come together as a team.
Yep.
I think your board is fantastic, minus your counselor. I'm just kidding. He's not bad too.
We've been leaning on him a lot.
I think you guys have been doing a very good job under a ton of stress of this year with the construction. And I'm looking forward to seeing what next year is going to bring as well, and the rest of this year, as we'll have our brand new street and all the new initiatives. And thank you, because you have done an incredible job as the chair, and we do
Thank you.
appreciate you. And that's coming from, I'm going to say, all the downtown merchants.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
And I just have one question for you as well. And that is, and I know that this is something that's often discussed as well in the community. And I'm wondering if you can just give us a sense of, with all these really positive developments that are going on, what is the relationship between the HBIA and the chamber in terms of where does your role begin and end, and what role has the chamber played? I'm just I've always been really curious to know a little bit more about what that relationship is, what the roles and responsibilities are.
We have a really good working relationship with the chamber. They have the business group in the greater area. We're strictly in the downtown core. So a lot of what we do will overlap, but we're strictly promotions and beautification. So we'll leverage whatever's going on. And if we need things done that need to be supported by the broader business community, the chamber has been really good at communicating that out to members that are broader than the HBIA. And so in us communicating what we're doing, then we're leveraging each other's efforts. And so Brenda and the chamber, they've been amazing at helping us. And like one of the things I think that is really, it's like a big hug for each of our businesses. We've opened businesses going through construction, which is amazing. And the chamber organizes the opening ceremonies that has someone from the federal government, provincial government, the municipal government, chamber, and ourselves, and just welcoming them to opening downtown. I don't know any other town that does that, and that's initiated by the chamber, and it is so incredibly well received. And it's that kind of work that we just contribute to, and vice versa. If we're doing something, they contribute to what we're doing. So we have a really good working relationship, and it's just like the Capitol. When we're there, everybody goes, okay, should they be at the table when we're all talking about implementation? My opinion is absolutely yes. That those are two key stakeholders in our community that contribute to the downtown core. And so whenever I'm thinking of implementation of any program, I think of those two groups because they're both very, very supportive.
Thank you very much. And thank you again for coming for the presentation this evening. And I hope you heard all of our joint and collective appreciation for everything that you've done and for the work of the HBIA.
Thank you.
So at this point, I think it's a great time for us to take a 10-minute recess, which we're going to do. But before we do that, I'm just going to put forward a motion on the table that we receive this presentation for information. So can I get somebody to move and second that? Moved by Councillor Adams, seconded by Councillor Todd. All in favor? Thank you very much. That's passed unanimously. So at this point, we're going to take a 10-minute recess. Thank you. Okay, we will pick up where we left off. And I'm going to move on to our next presenter, 5.3, Susan Smith, regarding community issues on the large number of stray community cats. And I'll just wait for Councillor Mink to have a seat. So I welcome Susan to the podium. And if you could just press the little button on the side, we look forward to your presentation.
Okay, Madam Mayor, councillors, and staff. First of all, thank you for the opportunity to speak on this issue. I recently sent in each councillor notes on my predicament and spoke to all of you, where 9 kittens were dropped off at my home. I was already assisting 11 feral cats. Being on their own, stray cats still require some assistance from humans to survive. The MNR does not consider cats as wild animals. It took me 3 weeks to find homes for some of the kittens at a cost to me of about $225. The Humane Society was not helpful in taking in the kittens, nor helping me get some of the strays fixed. So I called in again because I had 3 to get fixed, and my call remains unanswered to this day. Throughout this ordeal, I spoke to many people. Many people approached me, and I've learned a lot on the cat population situation in Port Hope. There are multiple cat colonies throughout the town and rural areas. Cats are permitted to roam free outdoors. However, this makes it more vulnerable to the dangers of cars, negative encounters with wildlife, and more susceptible to disease and parasites. The cat population is compounded by cat owners who do not spay or neuter their own cats and let them out to roam. Neighborhood toms and the feral toms end up mating with the feral mothers, who end up with kittens no one takes in. One female cat can be responsible for up to 200 kittens within a 2-year span. There are some caring individuals who are outside our district who have come in and taken care of a Port Hope problem, or tried. One person down east is taking care of my mother cat and her 5 kittens as we speak. They'll find home for the kittens, they'll give them their proper shots, and have the mother spayed and returned to me, to her familiar territory. But she will not be adding to the population again. This is all on their dime. They rely on fundraising and donations to help with these costs. Another person in Northumberland, not within Port Hope, is helping trap 30 cats for one person, 28 for another, and there's another person waiting to have 21 trapped at her place. Another, who is actually TNR, trap, neuter, return, qualified out of Clarington, has been working in Welcome, has done 27 kittens, 12 cats, and there's still 12 to 15 left in that colony. She also has got 3 kittens, 7 cats near the old welding shop by 28, She's also got 10 kittens and 2 adults near Wesleyville and 4 cats on an abandoned farm at the western side of the municipality. These people picking up cats in Port Hope are driving them all the way to Toronto because right now it's the only place for them who can spay and neuter for free. But these trips are costly to these individuals. These people need help. If we had a TNR set up in Port Hope, it would be much easier and cost effective to have the cats fixed here or the TNR system to locate possible avenues within their system. All the shelters are full. Some are even closing. They can't do it alone. Even breeders are dropping off their cats to the shelters. Toronto Humane Society does not have a no-roam policy. And they just announced that all the cats can be adopted at no charge. This is just to make more space so you know how bad the situation is. But I believe from Pickering right through to Port Hope, they do have no roam policies. My understanding was this, the CAO at the Humane Society was going to check on getting more vets to aid in these services, but don't believe that has transpired. In a recent visit to the Humane Society, one caretaker was told that Port Hope had a TNR they could use, but they didn't want it broadcast. What good is a service if it can't be used or if we don't know about it? Calls to the Humane Society go unanswered. They must be at their peak as well, but it doesn't help the population problem. The overloaded cat population has been created none other by humans. When people do not get their animals fixed, they're breeding when they're roaming free. Humans need to fix this, and the only solution is to get it under control through a TNR program. If you entered your kitchen and you have a flooded floor because of a leaky faucet, you don't start wiping up your floor. You turn the tap off. That's what the TNR program will do. They'll fix the females from continuing the constant breeding. I also believe it is imperative to get this moving quickly, as cats breed about 4 times a year and can breed as early as 4 to 5 months old. As I mentioned earlier, one female cat can be responsible for over 200 kittens in a matter of 2 years. Foxes and coyotes are also abundant here and getting more brazen. Many small children have been attacked by coyotes in the GTA alone. I have given Councillor Toms a list of a few of those instances. We can't expect the coyotes to leave with such an abundant food supply. Let's not wait till someone gets attacked here. We need education for owners, more vets, a no-roam policy to facilitate the TNR program, perhaps a subsidy to help low-income cat owners maybe get their cats spayed. Bob Barker said it best, get your pets spayed or neutered. If everybody's old enough to remember Bob Barker. There is a need to address this problem immediately, as the problem belongs to Port Hope. The problem is real and getting worse. Could we please have a staff report or someone to coordinate the parties involved to establish this program to get this persistent problem under control?
Thank you very much for your presentation and for bringing this issue to the attention of this council. I'm now going to turn it to my fellow council members for any questions or discussion. Yes.
May I just ask, the next delegation is directly related. Could we hear from the next delegation first and then
Sure. Is everybody in agreement that we should proceed that way? Yes, Councillor Mink, I think that's a terrific idea. Thank you very much. So we will then move on to 5.4, Martin Field, regarding trap, neuter, and return program to manage feral cat problems. So I now welcome our final presenter, Martin, to the podium. Do you just want to press the button there on the
I'm
right-hand
sorry.
side? Yep.
All right. Good evening, Mayor Hanguski and members of council and staff. My name is Martin Field. I've driven in from Oshawa to be before you tonight. I've been advocating for TNR in a number of municipalities, and where they have been established, they have met with very favourable results, I may say. This advocacy has been over the last 8 years. And so trap, neuter, return, and manage, TNRM, which the full thing is, has been proven to be a very effective program throughout municipalities that have adopted this. If I may go on, with the support of the following municipalities, successful programs have been established in Clarington, Oshawa, Whitby, with the support of the Durham Region Humane Society. In addition, working with the Humane Society of Kawartha Lakes, TNR was established in the city of Kawartha Lakes 2 years ago. The program has also been approved by the Township of Georgina, where I was helping the Georgina Feral Cat Committee members work with the local council. And I must say, that program in Georgina has been met with such a tremendous success, so much so that the local Georgina Feral Cat Committee has expanded their range to include Brantford and West Gwillimbury and other communities within the 25-kilometre radius. I've also been invited as a stakeholder in TNRM reviews by the town of Caledon and the city of Mississauga. For those who are not familiar with the program, I'll just shorten it a bit. TNR is the only time-tested method to reduce and to eliminate feral cat populations through natural attrition through humane practices. This program has been successfully practiced in Europe, South Africa, and the USA for over 30 years. I have assisted and guided feral cat caretakers in municipalities to have the program officially recognised by councils and to have the program entrenched in bylaws in order that the caretakers can freely and legally operate. The program can be supported by passing any number of bylaws and exceptions, such as, I know cats aren't licensed here, but they could be exempt from licensing, for example. But one of the biggest things you can do is enact a no roaming bylaw. That would be a huge step forward. And I don't think it's going to cost the town very much money to do that at all. This would simply reduce the number of intact cats breeding, eliminate the exposure to urban dangers such as busy roads and poisons set as bait to control vermin. As realised in other municipalities, it will also eliminate negative human-cat interactions such as digging and urinating and marking territory, as well as yowling and fighting. Such a no-roaming bylaw provision will also assist in reducing what is reportedly an increasing influx of foxes and coyotes who see the cats as prey and as a food source. TNRM would also be met with the approval by many of the birding community who regularly cite the millions of bird deaths caused by free-roaming cats. Life on the street is far from fun. Feral cats can acquire contagious diseases like feline leukemia, respiratory infections, both bacterial and viral, and rabies. Protective actions such as vaccinations, once trapped, help prevent the spread of FIV, feline immunodeficiency virus, and parasite prevention, protects them from heartworms, flea, and tick-borne infections, and intestinal parasites. As such, feral cats have no medical care and can suffer from a wide variety of ailments unless they are monitored and managed by a caretaker. TNR speaks to the responsible management of feral cats. As in other communities where the program has been approved, and in order to operate the program, feral cat caretakers and their colony locations are registered. Feral cat caretakers are required to take a 2-hour online certified course that is offered by Community Cats Toronto. This course is widely recognized throughout the GTA and greater GTA area and well beyond, where best practices such as teaching a strict feeding regimen and maintain good relations with neighboring property owners is taught. This online course also comes with the 160-page caretaker manual that you have been handed, that is produced by the charity Neighbourhood Cats, that is often referred to as the Bible of TNR. This is the same manual. All right. I have provided the. I've also provided the TNR bylaw extracts from adjacent and nearby municipalities for your reference. Caretakers will arrange through their participating vets to have the cat spayed and neutered, to have the multi-vaccines shot, including for rabies, microchipped, together with any additional veterinary care. There's also something else that I'd like to bring to your attention. Caretakers are tasked to pay for all veterinary services at their own expense. They are invariably busy enough caring for these cats, purchasing food and other supplies, trapping and vet visits, to have any spare time to raise funding. I feel that these caring members in our community should not have to incur such out-of-pocket costs. Caring for these cats is not something that they can ignore or walk away from. It is not in their nature to do so, and I think we should consider ourselves fortunate to have these selfless members in our respective communities. With modest funding from the town to compensate for veterinary expenses, such support would go a long way to alleviate their financial hardship and would simultaneously recognise their contribution to the town. The benefit is that volunteer caretakers will, in effect, perform all the legwork, thus leaving the town staff to continue business as usual. In summing up, I feel it is important to note that by addressing this issue in a collaborative manner, it will, in a short time, deliver several positive results, as noted, including the reduction of complaints, and through a responsibly run program, will foster community goodwill where previously there may have only been frustration. I hope members of council will consider establishing a TNR program to manage this ongoing, ever-present issue for the benefit of these cats and for the community at large. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Martin, and thank you for taking the time to drive from Oshawa. We certainly have benefited from the breadth of your knowledge and experience and expertise. So just thank you very much for coming forward and making this presentation to council. I'll now turn it over to council for a discussion or questions around this presentation or the previous presentation. And I see Councillor Adams got his hand up.
Thank you. I appreciate both of the presentations, both wonderful, and I do agree. But I also want to chime in before my mirror counselor, Councillor Todd over there, has an opportunity to ask about metrics. So I know that you've said that this program is successful across many different areas. Do you have metrics on what success looks like? Like how much reduced, anything like that?
Well, I don't know if there's metrics with the Township of Georgina, but my main contact with the Georgina Feral Cat Committee said we've eliminated all adult cats, all the colonies. All we get is the odd cat with the odd few kittens. We've now expanded to a much wider radius because I guess they're bored. they need to expand. But Oshawa's met with success around 30 to 40% reduction already. It does take time, and there's also another important component to establishing this program, and it's public education, so that they're aware, of what the consequences are when you let your cat out to roam when it's not spayed or neutered, etc. Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Mink.
Thank you. So I do have something to say, but before I do that, so we have had discussions, you and I, in the past, and this is something that I've been working on for a couple of years now. When we're talking about metrics, though, I remember a conversation I had with you, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but you were talking about a farm, I think maybe in Kawartha Lakes or something like that, where you were saying that the farmer thought he had, I don't know, a dozen cats. And when you finished trapping, and then you told me the number of how many were actually in hiding. Do you recall that number? Can you make?
Oh, I don't. I'm.
Yeah.
I
Okay. It
don't
was
have
something
that
astonishing. I think the farmer
with
called and said that
information.
he had 20 cats. When you were done, they caught 300 or something like that. And you told me a number where you said every one cat you see, there's a certain amount that you don't see that are in hiding.
Oh yeah, exactly. You could be walking right by them. This is why. I mean, I've had councillors in other municipalities say we don't have feral cats, and even what is a feral cat? They're hiding. They don't want anything to do with us. They haven't. They're not used to human interaction, and they'll be behind bushes if you stand in. I'm thinking of one particular area in the downtown Oshawa area, and it's a semi-vacant land lot. And if you look carefully and stand around long enough, you can finally see movement behind the bushes and all that. And you can see these eyes peering out at you. But normally people just going about their business. They don't even know they're there. I mean, every community has feral cats.
Thank you. And one other question I had as well is that you mentioned the birds, and I have mentioned this to people before about the TNR program, and they say this is a bad idea because cats kill birds, not thinking that keeping the feral population populating is the problem, not releasing them. I don't. Can you speak to that argument where they say the TNR is not a good idea because it's going to encourage more bird death, which it's the opposite.
Actually, working with the local supporters in Hamilton, they said the birding community in that area is coming around now to realize that TNR is not the bad thing it's supposed to be. I mean, it's there to, if you do nothing, then you're only guaranteed to have more predation. But by spaying and neutering their cats, it drives down their activity level. They're not roaming and looking to spray to mark territory and all those typical things, and fighting and continuing the breeding cycle. So it's natural attrition, and it works. And through natural attrition, you're going to have corresponding less predatory birds being preyed upon, and other wildlife.
Perfect. Thank you. So I do have a motion, but I don't know if we should wait till everybody talks. But I do want to, before I do that, so just let my rest of council know that I have a motion to put on the floor. But I just want to say that, so my experiences, and I know, Susan, you were talking about the Humane Society. I was a volunteer with the Humane Society about 12 years ago for about 4 or 5 years. And I was very, very actively involved. Hundreds of hours I did a year. I did everything you could possibly do. And the organization, from what I saw, was very responsive. They did very, very well responding to our residents. And 2 years ago-ish, we moved Municipal Animal Services under the care of the Humane Society. And my own experiences a year ago, as Susan expressed, it was a year ago this weekend, I was trying to help a mother and 3 kittens born under my porch. And I had not a good experience. And it was very disheartening because it is an organization I care about very deeply, and I was very upset that I had that experience. And my concern as a councillor is we moved Municipal Animal Services under their care 2 years ago. And if there's a problem, if they're not able to move forward on this program, I want to hear about that as a council. I want to know what's wrong, what we can help them with. So that's where I'm standing at this point is if there's a problem, don't hide it, because the longer you hide it, the more cats are populating. And that's kind of my thoughts on this.
Thank you, Councillor Mink. And I know we've got comments from Councillor Todd and Councillor. Oh no, you're good. Okay, just Councillor Todd then.
Thanks very much. And maybe I can invite Susan back up to the podium. I actually have a couple of questions. Martin, if you could stay as well, but maybe we can do both because I'm going to bounce a little bit between the two. Thank you both for your presentations. And Susan, in your presentation, you made a comment, I think, about tomcats, feral cats. In fact, I think the language was tomcats will impregnate feral cats. What's the difference between a tomcat, or is there a difference between tomcats and feral cats? Or are they the same thing, interchangeable
What I
language?
was saying was that the neighborhood toms and feral toms would mate with the feral mothers.
Gotcha. Okay, so feral just meaning they don't belong to anyone. Tom meaning they have
They're
a
just straight cats.
right. They have a family that they would belong to. Was that? Oh, Tom is male. Okay, good. All right. Sorry, I'm learning language. I don't know. I'm not a cat person, so I am learning. All right.
Well,
So
neither was I.
yeah, surprise. I don't know anything about. Yeah. Okay. Good.
Feral cats is what they call stray cats. They belong to no one, but they're there, and they're the ones who are breeding.
Gotcha. Okay. Right. Male, female. Perfect. And then the other question I had, Martin, when you're talking about the, there's a modest funding and so on. What's modest mean?
Anywhere between 3,000 to 5,000. It doesn't necessarily mean that all those funds are used. It's just drawn upon as needed.
$3,000 to $5,000 a year.
A year, yeah.
And what can you get done for $3,000 to $5,000 in a year?
That can vary because I'm trying to be modest here, but I mean it may involve a bit more funding. It depends with these feral cats. They come in with disease, with upper respiratory disease, other ailments. So they do require further veterinary care, which can add up.
Sure.
So that's a tough one to
Sure.
take care of, to forecast. But in my view, it's a all hands on deck approach.
Right.
This is why individual feral cat, other than the Humane Society, individual feral cat caretakers need to be empowered and recognised by the town. Because, for example, the Hamilton Burlington Humane Society, they estimate in their report from last year there's about 36,000 feral cats in Hamilton throughout the municipality. They TNR'd about 346. That worked out, I worked it out to 0.08 of the feral cat population. That's not even making a dent.
Right.
So they can't be they're not in a position to do everything because they rely on public funding, corporate funding and that. So you need to also empower the individual people in the community that want to work to trap these cats, get them spayed and neutered and back to health and then back into where they were trapped.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to circle back to Councillor Mink, but I just did want to say, Susan, I do remember Bob Barker and his reminder to get your cat spayed and neutered. So, Councillor Mink.
I'm just gonna thank you. Go off of Todd's question, and I'm gonna put our Director of Finance on the spot here. Is there an increase that you know of, and I know I'm putting you on the spot, of the operating costs that the Humane Society has submitted to the municipality annually? And the reason I'm asking is that there's a cost to the feral cat program, yet operating costs that we pay to the Humane Society is going up. This program could mitigate operating costs. Do you know, Director Baxter?
Maybe I'll take that one. Our agreement with NHS is under bylaw. So the operating costs, with some exceptions, are fixed over the period of the term of the agreement. So to answer your question, they are rising, but about the rate of inflation at this point.
Okay, so I have a motion. So my understanding is that the Humane Society has this as one of their strategic items or movement or whatever that they're working on, but it continues, to my understanding, is that it continues to be something that's always kind of on the back burner because they're trying to address the current urgency that they're addressing. And my concern, as I expressed before, is that if there's a need and something we can help you with, then we need to know that. So I have a motion drafted that council refer presentation 5.3 regarding stray cats in the community and presentation 5.4 regarding the proposed establishment of a trap, neuter, return, and manage program to staff to engage the Northumberland Humane Society for a formal update to council on progress to date in the identification of how the municipality of Port Hope could support the implementation of such a program.
Thank you, Councillor Mink, for that motion. Councillor Less, you're seconding that motion. Any further discussion of said proposed motion? Councillor Less?
We want a time frame for staff to engage? Sure. Do you have a recommendation? Before year end? And that's just asking for the report.
You're happy with that friendly
I'm fine with
amendment?
that, yep.
Okay. We've captured that. Okay. Any further discussion, questions, comments? Okay, we've got a mover and a seconder, and now I'm going to call the vote. All in favor? Thank you very much. Yes. Microphone.
You've been asking Martin all these questions on stats and how the PNR program works. And I look at it at a different way. Cities are different than towns, but when I look at what this person that I have been speaking with, and if she has taken 10 female feral cats to Toronto and brought them back fixed, she just saved us over 2,000 new kittens. There's a stat.
Thank you for that comment, and I appreciate the motion that we've passed unanimously at the council table. So now we'll move on to thank you very much. We're moving on to item number 6, deputations. Tonight we have no deputations. Item number 7, correspondence. We've got none. Moving on to item 8, consent agenda. Adoption of minutes. Items listed under the consent agenda are considered collectively as one motion. Council members may request that specific items be removed for separate discussion, deliberation, and action. The consent items are listed on the agenda. Would any member of council like to remove any of these items for separate discussion? Seeing none, can I please get a mover and a seconder for the adoption of the consent agenda, adoption of minutes? Councillor Darrell moved, Councillor Mink seconding, and all in favor. And that is passed unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to item number 9, consent agenda advisory committee and board meetings. Would anyone like to remove any items under this consent agenda for separate discussion? Deputy Mayor.
Yes, I'd like to ask a question about something in item 9.5 from the Heritage Port Hope Advisory Committee meeting.
Anyone else like to pull anything? Councillor Less.
Claire doesn't ask the question that I was going to ask. I'd also like to address something in 9.5.
So we have item 9.5, Heritage Port Hope Advisory Committee meeting minutes of July 22nd, 2024. Deputy Mayor.
I noticed that some of the contents of this meeting, these meeting minutes, have caught the attention of members of the public, and I think there's some questions just out of curiosity around process. That there was a delegation about a proposed condo development on John Street, and I think just a process question of to you, I guess, Director Davis, just to explain sort of how that fits in the planning process and to assure that this would obviously come to a public meeting at some point in the process when all those pieces are in place.
Certainly, and happy to address that question. So we had a scheduled delegation related to proposed or potential development at 86 John Street, I believe is the one you're asking for, if my memory serves correctly. And the reality is anybody can delegate, or it's a public body, they can delegate to that committee. That in particular, recognizing that it's in the Heritage Conservation District, any kind of work that might happen on that property would be subject to a heritage permit. That is not what happened at the meeting. They made a delegation announcing their intention to consider some development on that property, and we're seeking feedback from members of the committee related to what their proposal would be. We have currently have not seen an application, any kind of planning application come forward, either for site plan or rezoning or official plan amendment or anything of that nature. And so really this was simply an information gathering delegation to council or to the members of the Heritage Committee to understand really what their concerns may be should they want to proceed. Ultimately the resident or the applicant or the developer, I guess, retains the right to bring forward an application at the appropriate time. They also have the opportunity to seek advice from those types of bodies, which is what they did.
Thank you, Director. And Councillor
That
Les.
answers my question. Thank you.
Councillor Mink.
May I just ask a second question? I think the public's idea, some people, when they hear the word condo, they think a nice glass facade. Can you maybe define what a condo it would be? Not necessarily what we might think.
Sure. So certainly condominium is not necessarily a style of architecture, but a style of ownership or resident or tenancy. So really what I think, and ultimately the group that came forward, the intention would be to, at least what their proposal was, or what they were sort of testing with Heritage Port Hope, was more of the heritage features of the building and what it would look like. It's responsible to aspire or subscribe to some of the aesthetics of the Heritage Conservation District, and so that was part of what they were looking for. The fact that they're proposing or there's a potential for a condominium to be built on that property or a portion of that property is really related to the style of ownership that it would be, and really what that means is instead of a freehold home, which you own the piece of property and the structure on it, it is a commonly owned piece of land that multiple owners own and have individual residences in. That's really what it is defined as.
Thank you, Director. And so just for the record, this is no different than any other application that would have to go through all of the formal steps before there's any kind of approval that occurs.
Back to the mayor. Absolutely. They did not have an application that came forward. They were not seeking either a planning approval nor a heritage permit at this time. They were simply making a delegation seeking feedback from committee members to understand really, what their positions were vis-a-vis various things like massing on the property, height of the building, etc.
Thank you for that. So at this point, if there's no other items to pull, I'd like to get a mover and seconder to receive all the items under the consent agenda. Item number 9. Can I get a mover? Councillor Adams, seconded by Councillor Darrell. All in favor? And that is passed unanimously. Moving on to item number 10. Items for consideration, we have report 10.1 FS 1124 re 2023 building permit fees annual report. Does staff have anything further that they would like to add before we consider this report?
I can certainly speak to it. So the building services is a self-funded service unit within the municipality, with the idea that user fees would cover all costs. And so there's a reserve associated with that that acts kind of like a stabilization, like we would have on a larger scale for the general municipality. And in years where the revenues less the expenses result in a surplus, money would go into the reserve. And then in years where maybe building permits are down, or however the case may be, if there's a net deficit, then it would be drawn from the reserve. So we've had that set up for quite a few years now, and we've had a relatively stable experience through that. In 2023, there was a draw on the reserve, and we are just providing the annual update to council for your awareness.
Thank you very much for that. I'm going to just start off and ask why the astronomical jump in expenses, which seem to be out of line with the pattern that we've seen over the number of years.
Right. So certainly at times it's been difficult to have building staff, to retain them, to attract them. And so the answer is, I think, two-part. So one, when we look at 2022, we had a CBO and a building official. I think at least for part of the year, we had some vacancy there. Moving forward to 2023, we actually got to a full complement, and meaning that we had a CBO, a deputy, and an official. And in that year, there was also costs associated with the director and some support staff that was then added as well. So that did increase the overall cost. But as you will also see in my report, it's one of the things that there is opportunity to achieve more full cost recovery by actually allocating some indirect costs. Right. Currently, we don't charge a cost for building. Or a cost for IT, or some of the other costs that we are permitted to do, but the result of that obviously is some higher building fees, but the offsets, which means that you're then achieving more cost recovery, and the offset of that is right now those costs would sit otherwise with the tax levy. So there's a bit of a give and take on both of those fronts, but that was the difference in the primary difference in the increase to the direct cost. There was also a service delivery review. There was some allocation from planning, because planning does, as part of a lot of the building permits, they do some work as well, but all the revenue goes to building. So there was some allocation of some other direct costs, but that's the primary reason for the difference.
Okay, I'm sure my fellow council members have additional questions. So, Councillor Todd.
Great, thank you. So does that mean we budgeted for a loss if we knew that these people were coming and that these were costs that we were going to be taking on board?
So there was an increase in the budgeted full-time staff expenditures. It was not budgeted for a loss, but it was budgeted for some significantly higher revenues. So you saw the revenues came in, I'd say fairly typically, but the budget was more in line to actual, say, from 2020, about $5.5 million. And I think one of the drivers to that is certain large development that has been on the horizon. Feels like every year. And so, I think that that played a part, of that scenario. I will say we have a new CBO with us now, and Director now moved into Director Davis's portfolio, and I've spoken with both of them and actually been very pleased. Especially, I got another response from the CBO today, looking into 2023 to fully understand what was going on, looking at 2024. In terms of managing that, and at this point, planning and building for 2025. So, pleased with the attention that they are giving that. But there is going to be a bit of a balance, right? One part of it is how much development do we have coming in. We could have a large development start up and this go really high, right? Right after COVID, there was, a real uptick in construction. So, in that year we had a surplus, of $200,000, right? So, it can go up and down. Right now, the balance in the reserve is, I'm sure you've noted, right? It is still positive, and it may go negative, right, at some point. But it is there is still some balance there. But certainly understand the concern. We've had these conversations internally, and will be part of our mitigating 2024 as well as looking into the budget for 2025.
Councillor Lass.
So do you see 2025 as will we be collecting more revenues? Will there be significant development occurring? And if so, where is it coming from? Is it coming from Mason Homes, or because that's the only one I can think of?
I'm happy to take this one for the Director of Finance, to the Mayor, to Councillor Andrews. So we do anticipate an uptake in some development. We have two significant building projects on the horizon that are not related to Mason Homes, quite frankly. One of them is related to the development at 60 Henderson Street that was approved by Council earlier, either late last year or earlier this year. I can't remember the right time frame. And secondarily, we have an institutional complex being also built on the other side or across the road from it for the millwrights. If you recall, that site plan was registered in early January of this year, and they have a 2-year commitment to build. So we anticipate some strong revenues coming in either late 2024 and probably in 2025 for both of those builds.
And just to follow up on Mason Homes themselves, will they be contributing significantly next year? Or will they be...
So through the Mayor to Councillor Andrews again. My anticipation is that, and we're always hopeful that we're going to see, really housing starts right now in this current economy with current interest rates are slower than anticipated. And we anticipate that we're hopeful that interest rates will come down and people will start buying houses again. Certainly new starts. I would suggest, I don't have a crystal ball, but I would hope that 2025 I would view very much as a recovery year. In 26 we would have a strong building season.
You have an abundance of homes at Elgin and Brook Road in Coburg that are built on spec. They're built, and they're probably, I want to say about 3/4 of them all have lock boxes on them and for sale signs because they're not moving.
I see Councillor Mink and then the Deputy Mayor.
So thank you through the chair. So as a council, I think when we bring on staff, we're hoping for certain level of, I don't know what the word I'm looking for, but progress, maybe the word. So when I think of businesses, new businesses coming into town, and we're on the theme of metrics tonight. When I see a business, so I understand as a council, we hear when there's problems. We don't necessarily hear from the businesses that everything's going really smoothly. But is there any metric to show that bringing on more staff and making sure they have a competitive wage, we're getting a return on that by getting businesses built quickly and that they're there to assist that movement of the process? Do we have that?
Director Davis.
I'm happy to respond to that because that question from the Mayor to Councillor Mink, to be quite honest with you, we didn't bring on more staff. We actually just refilled so we had a staff complement of 3 prior to my arrival in 2022. We still have a staff complement of 3 in that division. What we suffered, quite frankly, in 2023 is a catastrophic situation where the entire staff complement left the municipality. And at the beginning of the year, we had contracted out, if you recall, to a third-party vendor plans review services and the issuance of building permits. And then we had to rebuild the entire staff at that point. And so as I would suggest that, we are in most areas of development right now in terms of land use planning and building officials, and I can imagine if I look to my left to the engineering side, finding and retaining quality staff is an enormously difficult challenge in Eastern Ontario. And when we lose an entire department of people and we have to replace them, they tend to come more expensively, quite frankly. And so really what we've done in 23 is had to rebuild an entire department. We didn't add more staff to that group. We just hired more people, or we just hired the same number of people we had prior to.
Thank you for that, Director. And I think it's worth pausing at this point and saying thank you for all of your efforts in ensuring that we had the replacement staff come on board. And I can't imagine the challenges of having to rebuild that whole division and getting us back on track.
If I might, Mayor, it wasn't me that did that work. It's Director Williams who took that challenge on, and my hat goes off to him because he had a very challenging year in 23 to manage his way through that. I just happened to be an innocent bystander in the same building watching it.
Well, you inherit that now under your leadership, but the comment is always when we're rebuilding in a municipality in a context where we all know that recruitment and retention are such difficult issues that I do think we need to pause. And although, we're hoping for those revenues to turn around in the next couple of years, that this is a tremendous success to have a full composition of staff in such a critical department for us. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Yeah, the part of the report that I was most interested in was about the indirect costs and whether we are in fact reflecting the true costs of the operations of the building services as a revenue expense, neutral budget line. And I was really concerned, and you mentioned this, Director Baxter, about the indirect costs that facilitate this work being done, not being charged back through building permits, but rather being subsidized essentially by the tax levy. And I'm really concerned when I hear what sounds like an invisible subsidy being given by the municipality that's being paid for by taxpayers. And it's not that I'm opposed to the idea of subsidizing people building things that we want built in the community, but I would much rather see that in a transparent policy where we say through a CIP, for example, for affordable housing, maybe cut people a break on building permits because they're advancing a community goal, as opposed to it being sort of this invisible process where it's being absorbed into the general levy through these indirect costs. So I just wanted to say I appreciated you pointing that out as part of the report, and I really hope to see that come forward at some point in the budget so that we can see what the true costs are and then make an informed decision about whether building permit fees do need to be raised in order to achieve that cost neutral goal.
Director Davis.
My only comment related to building permit fees is I believe Director Baxter might have noted that building permit fees were raised in 2024, which was the first time in more than 10 years that we brought forward or raised building fees in this jurisdiction, which also helps to contribute to some of the challenges that we struggle with.
Thank you. Any final comments or thoughts on this? Okay, so the recommended action is that the report regarding the 2023 building permit fees annual report be received for information purposes, and further that a copy be made available to the public through the municipal website. So can I get a mover and seconder for that? Moved by Councillor Darrell, seconded by Councillor Less. All in favor? Thank you. And that's passed unanimously. Moving on to report 10.2 WE0624RE Walton Street Reconstruction Update number 2. Does staff have anything further they would like to add before we consider this report?
Just like to add that the Walton Street Reconstruction Project is a significant and very complex project, not only for its location, but the work involved. There has been significant progress that has been made. The water main is complete, the sanitary sewer is complete, the storm sewer is under progress, and it is anticipated to be complete within the next 2 weeks. The underground electrical work is planned to be started next week for the new streetlights, not new streetlights, the refurbished streetlights to put back. And then curb and asphalt is anticipated to move forward in October. And once the curb and asphalt is in, then the sidewalk will be the absolute last thing that is done, sidewalk and landscaping. So we are still on track to have it finished in November with deficiencies and probably some final landscaping in the spring. We are still within budget, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Director, and thank you for your leadership on this very important and complex project for the community. And it's wonderful to hear this update at this point. Questions, comments from council? Yes, Councillor Adam.
So owning a store downtown, you would think I'd be upset about all this stuff, right? But I'm not. The construction crew has been incredible to work with. I've got to see them all day, every day for like 4 months now. They're a good group of people that work extremely hard, as well as our staff people that are coming in. So a shout out to Matthew. He's done a great job. Warren has done a great job. And even Richard has done a great job. He's a good guy. They've done a fantastic job, as well as the ambassadors and the downtown merchants. Greatly appreciate all of the work that they've been doing to try to keep us all on track and keep us informed with everything. So thank you on behalf of all the merchants, because we really do appreciate all the extra efforts. Thanks.
Councillor Less.
And you've heard this from me many times before, and you'll hear it tonight. What is our fallback position if our estimate of how traffic will flow east-west on Walton Street, specifically at Ontario and John Street, if it doesn't work, if we start getting snarled? Do we have a fallback position?
Are you referring to the bump outs and line painting? Line painting can be changed. Line painting can be changed.
Thank you. Okay. The recommended motion action is to receive this item for information. Could I get a mover or seconder? Moved by Councillor Adams, second by Councillor Mink. All in favor? And that's passed unanimously. Moving on to the last report, 10.3, Staff Report DS 21-24, Reinvesting in Canada Infrastructure Plan, Public Transit Stream, and the Metrolinx Transit Procurement Initiatives Renewals. Does staff have anything further that they would like to add before we consider this report?
To the mayor, through the mayor, to the members of council, this two-part report. First and foremost, it's an amendment to the current stream, and really, instead of having a new transfer payment agreement sent by the province, really what they did is amend the current transfer payment agreement related to some older projects we were funded for. That is what gives us the funding of up to $412,481.25. To buy or purchase new buses for Port Hope, which we desperately require. We need 3 new buses, and between that and the funding we already have approved in the capital plan for 2023, that will give us enough money to buy the 3 new buses that we require. And in order to procure those buses, we're asking for consideration to join the Transit Procurement Initiative through Metrolinx. This program we've already used this program in the past to purchase the current buses that we do have. And what we are asking is to re-engage in that program so that we can use the power of bigger purchasing organizations to buy the buses that we require. Happy to take any questions you may have related to those 2 matters.
Thank you, Director. I'm going to kick off and ask you a couple questions. One is, what do we do with our decommissioned buses? That's my first question. And secondly, because I've spoken about this previously at this council table, what are the opportunities under this new procurement system to actually be procuring electric vehicles for our community? Because I know that that's something that in terms of sustainability and in terms of our commitment to the environment we've discussed at length here.
So first and foremost, the current buses we have, I would say before they are completely decommissioned, we'll see if we can take parts from all of them and amalgamate them into one working bus that we can keep as a backup. Right now, we do not have the luxury of having other buses in our arsenal, so to speak, so that when if we do have a bus that is goes out of service, really what we have to do is stop offering that service for the period of time for it to be replaced. So we don't really have a lot of backups in the system right now. So that would give us the luxury of at least having something in backup if we needed to keep the service running for that period of time. And then the rest of those parts, I don't know exactly what would happen, but we would do our best to recycle them as much as possible. Those buses are 5 years old, and that is the life of a bus in terms of mileage. So I'm going to use that to springboard into your second question, Mayor, which is related to the potential or possibility for electrification of the system. We did a substantial amount of research before we came forward asking for the procurement process to go through Metrolinx, predominantly just to find out what the costs were. And quite frankly, at this current stage, with the age of the technology that's available to us, it seemed very cost prohibitive. I had quotes for a new bus. Just the bus alone was over $400,000 per vehicle at this stage. And then that the property that we own, the property that we would service out of, we would need to improve the electrical infrastructure. We need to put in charging stations and a bunch of different things. So the cost of buses right now is in that sort of realm is relatively expensive and is not sort of within our buying power as a municipality at this stage. Now I say that to say that in our conversations with Metrolinx, they are looking forward to alternative ways of providing transit, whether that's through electrification or hydrogen or some sort of emerging form of technology. And they've assured me that by the time the life of these new buses would be over, which would be anticipated in 5 years' time. So by 2030, we may be in a position to look at an alternative form of vehicle, whether it's hydrogen or electric or what it would be.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments, Councillor Lass?
Yeah, just on a side topic related to buses. Can we renegotiate our deal with Coburg for the shuffling of people both ways? I don't think we've broached the subject in the past, and I think they're getting a fairly good deal from us.
Through the Mayor to Council Andrews, I don't disagree with you. $20,000 to provide that service annually is pretty inexpensive. Certainly be something that we would be looking into in the next year.
Okay, we should have that discussion, but let's just stay on topic. Councillor Mick.
Thank you. So just a comment by the mayor about the electric vehicles. I just wanted to mention that I hope it's on the agenda for the accessibility committee, but I did have over the summer some reach out from members of that committee expressing concerns about electric vehicles, and hopefully we'll talk about that in the next committee meeting, because they cannot be heard and it is a potential accessibility risk. So just to keep that in mind, and if you want to hear that discussion, tune in to the accessibility committee, because I hope it's on the agenda. It's just something that was raised to me, so I just wanted to mention that. And I'm sure these new buses will have accessibility features, of course.
Just can confirm to Councillor Mink that absolutely there's a pretty significant, that's one of the challenges we have. It's not just going out and buying a vehicle, right? I mean, that would be an easier task. The amount of accessibility features that are required on these to meet AODA standards is particularly high. And so that is one of the reasons why we seek to procure through Metrolinx, who do this work all the time for more than 45 municipalities in Southern Ontario.
Thank you. So the recommended action we have in front of us is that the council receive report DS 2124 for information. And can I get a mover and seconder for that? Moved by Councillor Adam, seconded by Councillor Less. All in favor? And that is passed unanimously. Moving on to item number 11, committee reports and recommendations. 11.1, motion from committee of the whole meeting, August 6, 2024, regarding correspondence from AMO regarding AMO advocacy on homelessness encampments. Is there anything further anyone would like to add before we vote on the matter? Seeing none, can I please get a mover and seconder? Moved by Councillor Clare and Deputy Mayor Clare, seconded by Councillor Darrell. All in favor? That is passed unanimously. Moving on, 11.2, motion from Committee of the Whole meeting, August 6, 2024, regarding correspondence from Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus, Municipal Infrastructure Policy Paper. Can I get a mover and seconder for that? Moved by Councillor Clare and Deputy Mayor Clare, seconded by Councillor Adam. All in favor? All in favor, and that is passed unanimously. Moving on to 11.3, motion from Committee of the Whole meeting, August 6, 2024, regarding report PD 1724, Digital Main Street Program 2022 to 2024. Can I get a mover and seconder for this recommended action? Moved by Councillor Todd, seconded by Councillor Mink. All in favor? That is passed unanimously. Moving on, 11.4, motion from Committee of the Whole meeting, August 6, 2024, regarding report PD 18 to 24, reinstatement of draft plan approval, Talbot Drive Phase 2 SU03 2018. The recommended action is listed on the agenda. Is there anything further anybody would like to add to this before I ask for a mover and seconder? Councillor Less.
We've renewed or extended the terms of our original development agreement to accommodate an extended period of 3 years, I believe, for Talbot.
Through the councillor to through the mayor to Councillor Andrews. Yes, I believe that was the report from the Committee of the Whole. The request was, as is the right of the landholder through the Planning Act, to request a reinstatement of that draft plan, which is what this council agreed to on that day.
Yeah, I know interest rates theoretically are coming down, and the prognosis looks good for new home development, but will 3 years be enough?
That's what they requested, and so I believe that's what we accommodated.
Okay, can I get a mover and seconder? Moved by Councillor Darrell, second by Councillor Adam. All in favor? That is passed unanimously. Moving on to 11.5, motion from Committee of the Whole meeting, August 6, 2024, regarding report CAO 0224, re 2025 to 2028 strategic plan process. The recommended action is listed on the agenda. Any further comments from anybody? Can I get a mover and seconder for that? Moved by Councillor Todd, seconded by Councillor Darrell. All in favor? And that is passed unanimously. Moving on to 11.6, appointment of member to the Heritage Business Improvement Area, HBIA. It is my understanding that there is an update on this motion as there's been an additional resignation. TJ, okay, so is there anything anybody would like to add before the recommended action listed on the agenda is moved and seconded? Can I get a mover for that? Moved by Councillor Todd, seconded by Councillor Adam. All in favor? And that is passed unanimously. Item number 12, notice of motions. We have none. Item 13, bylaws consent agenda. Bylaws are passed by consent agenda. Would anyone like to remove a bylaw for separate consideration and discussion? If not, I'd like to ask for mover and seconder to pass the bylaws as listed on the agenda. Moved by Councillor Adams, seconded by Councillor Todd. All in favor? Thank you. That's passed unanimously. Moving on to item number 14, confirmatory bylaw. It's now time for the confirmatory bylaw. This bylaw confirms that the proceedings that took place this evening and provides a formal adoption through a bylaw. Can I get a mover and seconder for that? Moved by Councillor Darrell, seconded by Councillor Less. All in favor? And that is passed unanimously. This concludes our business to be covered on today's agenda. We've reached the end, and I'm in a position to adjourn the meeting at 8:56 p.m. Thank you.